we are reminded that, in the fleeting time we have on this earth, what matters is not wealth, or status, or power, or fame, but rather how well we have loved and what small part we have played in making the lives of other people better. If you go out and make some things happen, you will fill the world with hope. If you run, you stand a chance of losing, but if you don't run, you've already lost. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. You can't let your failures define you. You have to let your failures teach you. When ignorant folks want to advertise their ignorance, you don't really have to do anything, you just let them talk. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. I do that every day. Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It shows you have the courage to admit when you don't know something, and to learn something new. What is important is that we make sure to work together, that we understand our strength comes from unity and not division. Greatness is never free, it must be earned. Fighting for what you think is right is always worth it. The best way to not feel hopeless is to get up and do something. Don't wait for good things to happen to you. If you go out and make some good things happen, you will fill the world with hope. You will fill yourself with hope. Hope is not blind optimism. It's not ignoring the enormity of the task ahead or the roadblocks that stand in our path. It's not sitting on the sidelines or shirking from a fight. Hope is that thing inside us that insists, despite all evidence to the contrary, that something better awaits us if we have the courage to reach for it, and to work for it, and to fight for it. Hope is the belief that destiny will not be written for us, but by us, by the men and women who are not content to settle for the world as it is, who have the courage to remake the world as it should be. Every single one of you has something you're good at. Every single one of you has something to offer. And you have a responsibility to yourself to discover what that is. That's the opportunity an education can provide. Hope in the face of difficulty. Hope in the face of uncertainty. The audacity of hope. Fear, uncertainty, and discomfort are your compasses toward growth. If you run, you stand a chance of losing, but if you don't run, you've already lost. Money is not the only answer, but it makes a difference. The future belongs to young people with an education and the imagination to create. No religion is responsible for terrorism. People are responsible for violence and terrorism. Don't just get involved. Fight for your seat at the table. Better yet, fight for a seat at the head of the table. Every life must be given the chance to realize its full potential, that every life matters. The thing I know for sure is that at the end of my life, what I'm going to remember is the love I felt for my family and my friends, and whatever good I did for other people. One voice can change a room, and if one voice can change a room, then it can change a city, and if it can change a city, it can change a state, and if it change a state, it can change a nation, and if it can change a nation, it can change the world. Your voice can change the world. Someday, our children and our children's children will look at us in the eye and they'll ask us, did we do all that we could when we had the chance to deal with this problem and leave them a cleaner, safer, more stable world? Focusing your life solely on making a buck shows a poverty of ambition. It asks too little of yourself, and it will leave you unfulfilled. I accept that people are going to call me awful things every day, and I will always defend their right to do so. You have the ability and gifts to do whatever you want. It is your turn now to change the world. Yes, we can. Most people who serve in Washington have been trained either as lawyers or as political operatives, professions that tend to place a premium on winning arguments rather than solving problems. Peace is not merely the absence of visible conflict. Only a just peace based on the inherent rights and dignity of every individual can truly be lasting. My administration is committed to creating an unprecedented level of openness in government. We will work together to ensure the public trust and establish a system of transparency, public participation, and collaboration. Openness will strengthen our democracy and promote efficiency and effectiveness in government. If poverty is a disease that infects the entire community in the form of unemployment and violence, failing schools and broken homes, then we can't just treat those symptoms in isolation. We have to heal that entire community. We know that education is everything to our children's future. We know that they will no longer just compete for good jobs with children from Indiana, but children from India and China and all over the world. We reward people a lot for being rich, for being famous, for being cute, for being thin. One of the values I think we need to instill in our country and our children is a sense of usefulness. In other words, are we useful? Are we making other people's lives a little bit better? Democracy cannot be imposed on any nation from the outside. Each society must search for its own path, and no path is perfect. Evil does exist in the world. A nonviolent movement could not have halted Hitler's armies. Negotiations cannot convince Al-Qaeda's leaders to lay down their arms. To say that force may sometimes be necessary is not a call to cynicism, it is a recognition of history, the imperfections of man, and the limits of reason. I think that the risk to all the progress we've made was at stake in the election because not just the president-elect, but a lot of members of Congress, including now the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader, have said that their principal agenda was to undo a lot of this progress. But as I've been talking about over the last several days, when it comes to healthcare, the gains that we've made are there. 20 million people have health insurance that didn't have it before. The uninsured rate is the lowest it's ever been. In December, I agreed to extend the tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans because it was the only way I could prevent a tax hike on middle-class Americans. But we cannot afford $1 trillion worth of tax cuts for every millionaire and billionaire in our society. We can't afford it. And I refuse to renew them again. Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism. And for them to be able to provide nuclear technology to non-state actors, that's unacceptable. Higher education cannot be a luxury reserved just for a privileged few. It is an economic necessity for every family. And every family should be able to afford it. While the future is unknowable, the winds always blow in the direction of human progress. When people are judged by merit, not connections, then the best and brightest can lead the country, people will work hard, and the entire economy will grow, everyone will benefit, and more resources will be available for all, not just select groups. Every country has violent, hateful, or mentally unstable people. What's different is not every country is awash with easily accessible guns. Prosperity without freedom is just another form of poverty. Writing has been an important exercise to clarify what I believe, what I see, what I care about, what my deepest values are. The process of converting a jumble of thoughts into coherent sentences makes you ask tougher questions. When people see opportunity, when they have a sense of control of their own destiny, then they're less vulnerable to the propaganda and twisted ideologies that have been attracting young people, particularly being turbocharged through social media. The best education I received was working with people in the community on a grassroots basis. Because what it taught me was that ordinary people, when they are working together, can do extraordinary things. The things that led me to run for office, trying to figure out how we create an economy where everybody's got a fair shot, and if you work hard, you can achieve your dreams. I don't presume to have knowledge of what happens after I die. But I feel very strongly that whether the reward is in the here and now or in the hereafter, the aligning myself to my faith and my values is a good thing. There is not a liberal America and a conservative America, there is the United States of America. There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America, there's the United States of America. The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are the people with something to hide. Although we may come from vastly different stories and very different walks of life, we are one people who possess common values and common ideals, who celebrate individual excellence, but also share a recognition that together, we can accomplish great and wonderful things we can't accomplish alone. Of all the rocks upon which we build our lives, we are reminded today that family is the most important. And we are called to recognize and honor how critical every father is to that foundation. They are teachers and coaches. They are mentors and role models. They are examples of success and the men who constantly push us toward it. We, the people, recognize that we have responsibilities as well as rights, that our destinies are bound together, that a freedom which only asks what's in it for me, a freedom without a commitment to others, a freedom without love or charity or duty or patriotism, is unworthy of our founding ideals and those who died in their defense. When we start using religion as a bludgeon in politics, when we start questioning other people's faith, we start using religion to divide, instead of bring the country together, then I think we've got a problem. The most expensive care we can give, we're giving those Americans without insurance. It's kind of stupid that we're fighting the notion that we want to quit paying a hidden tax and be upfront about covering people in a way that is cost-effective. You have social media and the internet and immigration, and so, suddenly, cultures are clashing and people feel as if they're less familiar with the people around them. That causes social anxieties. I am a strong believer in the free market. I am a strong believer in capitalism. But I am also a strong believer that there are certain common goods, our air, our water, making sure that people are safe, that require to have some regulation. So long as I'm commander-in-chief, we will sustain the strongest military the world has ever known. When you take off the uniform, we will serve you as well as you've served us, because no one who fights for this country should have to fight for a job, or a roof over their head, or the care that they need when they come home. Now let's make two things clear. ISIL is not Islamic. No religion condones the killing of innocents, and the vast majority of ISIL's victims have been Muslim. And ISIL is certainly not a state. It was formerly Al-Qaeda's affiliate in Iraq, and has taken advantage of sectarian strife and Syria's civil war to gain territory on both sides of the Iraq-Syrian border. It is recognized by no government, nor the people it subjugates. ISIL is a terrorist organization, pure and simple. And it has no vision other than the slaughter of all who stand in its way. I mean, I do think at a certain point you've made enough money. I will never forget that the only reason I'm standing here today is because somebody, somewhere stood up for me when it was risky. Stood up when it was hard. Stood up when it wasn't popular. And because that somebody stood up, a few more stood up. And then a few thousand stood up. And then a few million stood up. And standing up, with courage and clear purpose, they somehow managed to change the world. Politics, differences of religion or race, all that fades away when we are confronted with the awesome power of nature, and we're reminded that all we have is each other. Throughout history, Islam has demonstrated through words and deeds the possibilities of religious tolerance and racial equality. Why can't I just eat my waffle? While we may not live to see the full realization of our ambition, we will have the satisfaction of knowing that the world we leave to our children will be better off for what we did. It was unknowable then, but so much of the progress that would define the 20th century, on both sides of the Atlantic, came down to the battle for a slice of beach only 6 miles long and 2 miles wide. To avoid being mistaken for a sellout, I chose my friends carefully. The more politically active black students. The foreign students. The Chicanos. The Marxist professors and structural feminists and punk rock performance poets. From the day I took office, I've been told that addressing our larger challenges is too ambitious, such an effort would be too contentious. I've been told that our political system is too gridlocked, and that we should just put things on hold for a while. For those who make these claims, I have one simple question: how long should we wait? How long should America put its future on hold? I think that I'm a better speechwriter than my speechwriters. I know more about policies on any particular issue than my policy directors. And I'll tell you right now that I'm going to think I'm a better political director than my political director. The issue of climate change is one that we ignore at our own peril. There may still be disputes about exactly how much we're contributing to the warming of the Earth's atmosphere and how much is naturally occurring, but what we can be scientifically certain of is that our continued use of fossil fuels is pushing us to a point of no return. And unless we free ourselves from a dependence on these fossil fuels and chart a new course on energy in this country, we are condemning future generations to global catastrophe. So I came to my Christian faith later in life, and it was because the precepts of Jesus Christ spoke to me in terms of the kind of life that I would want to lead. Jesus Christ dying for my sins spoke to the humility we all have to have as human beings, that we're sinful and we're flawed and we make mistakes, and that we achieve salvation through the grace of God. Who you are and who you love should never be a fireable offense. The fact that we are here today to debate raising America's debt limit is a sign of leadership failure. It is a sign that we now depend on ongoing financial assistance from foreign countries to finance our government's reckless fiscal policies. I believe deeply that we cannot solve the challenges of your time unless we solve them together, unless we perfect our union by understanding that we may have different stories, but we hold common hopes, that we may not look the same and we may not have come from the same place, but we all want to move in the same direction towards a better future for our children and our grandchildren. This belief comes from my unyielding faith in the decency and generosity of the American people. The fact that we are here today to debate raising America's debt limit is a sign of leadership failure. America has a debt problem and a failure of leadership. Americans deserve better. I, therefore, intend to oppose the effort to increase America's debt. They, and we, are the legacies of an unbroken chain of proud men and women who served their country with honor, who waged war so that we might know peace, who braved hardships so that we might know opportunity, who paid the ultimate price so that we might know freedom. Stamina. There is a greater physical element to this job than you would think, just being able to grind it out. And I think your ability to not just mentally and emotionally, but physically be able to say, "We got this. We're going to be okay." The real test is not whether you avoid failure, because you won't. It's whether you let it harden or shame you into inaction, or whether you learn from it. No, you can't deny women their basic rights and pretend it's about your religious freedom. If you don't like birth control, don't use it. Religious freedom doesn't mean you can force others to live by your own beliefs. It's important to recognize that you can't have 100% security and also then have 100% privacy and zero inconvenience.